Well, I'm excited to welcome Nicci into the studio here because you've got this entire photography background, and we got this cool studio set up. So can't wait to get your impressions of it.
It's a really cool setup.
There we go. Interview is over. Let's leave with that.
It's a really cool setup. I really like it.
Well, Nicci Radhe.
Yep.
You are a photographer by trade, right? That's what you do professionally?
Yeah.
And we met at the gallery because you came in because you wanted to check out some work by this muralist. I think your name was Jessica Gonzalez.
Yeah. Tiny muralist, up and coming. She just did the biggest mural in Arizona.
Is that in Park Mall?
Yep.
That was the biggest in Arizona?
Biggest in Arizona.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So Jessica hired me to do some photos of her murals for products in the proper shops. Uh-huh. And it was months ago, and I realized I had never seen them.
Oh, wait a minute. So I missed that part. So she specifically hired you because the gallery, the Tucson gallery is where we sell her products. So she specifically hired you to do those products.
Yes.
I didn't realize that. I thought you just were her photographer.
Well, so I'd like to be. I've done 2 shoots for her so far, and she's a joy to work with. She's super fun. I love her work. But I wanted to see how the products came out. Like, I know you guys have like coffee mugs and posters, and I wanted to see how my shots came out in person. And she told me they were at the shop, so that's why I stopped in that night when I met you.
Well, then were you okay with those?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm all stressing this stuff now. Well, let's take a few steps back. How long have you been in photography?
This is my 10th year. I'm going.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm going on a decade.
Professionally. And did you come by this accidentally? Like you woke up one day with a camera for a present, and you said, "Oh, I'm going to be a photographer," or did you do this like as a hobby for a while?
No, this is one of my favorite stories because what happened was I was in college. I was studying astronomy. I failed my second math class. I failed trig twice, and I realized that I wasn't probably going to be an astronomer because I couldn't do math. So I took some art classes, and I took this photography class, and I ended up breaking the school's camera. I dropped it, broke it. Went in the next day, I told the school, like, hey, I broke your camera, I'd like to pay for it. And they were like, hey, you can't borrow anything from us for the rest of the semester, but you got to finish this class because it's past the withdrawal date. I was mad because I wanted to just take a fun art class and get out of the stress of like math and physics and all the stuff I was doing. And I ended up having to buy a camera because I had no access to camera anymore. So my husband went on Craigslist, he bought me a camera. And when that class was over, I dropped out of college.
Oh my gosh.
That's what happened. And I started doing photography. I was a food and beverage manager in another life. And so I had my camera and I started doing lots of like wildlife landscape photography. And then I started writing magazine articles. So I would use my photography in the magazine articles that I would write. And that's how I got into it. Just a little over 10 years ago.
Wow, that is crazy. So the fact that you can't do trigonometry has now connected you with the best Tucson muralists around.
The fact that I can't do trigonometry definitely changed my life for the better.
So just curious with your sort of those original aspirations, do you do photography? Like, do you do those sort of atmospherical photographs with you picture the heavens and the stars and all of that?
So I've never been good at that, but that's how I started. I started photographing the moon and constellations and stuff like that. So I got a hookup for my telescope at the time. And my middle name is Celeste. That's why I called it celestial photography for my business.
Okay.
My whole thing was I was going to be some famous astrophotographer since I couldn't be an astronomer. And that never happened. That never materialized.
That hasn't happened yet?
No. I'm not even good at astrophotography at all.
You're not good yet?
I'm not good yet. But I did just get a brand new telescope and I just finished installing the software and firmware and all that. So I'm really excited about that.
So look out. Here you go.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be the turning point for you because you weren't a photographer 10 years ago. Mm-mm. And when you signed up for your trig class the first time, they said, "Hey, what do you think about photography?" I'm not a photographer.
Didn't care.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, you might be a celestial photographer after all. You just haven't gotten there yet.
That's true. It is I always like to keep all possibilities open. But yeah, that's exactly how it all started. I broke a camera. I broke a camera and that was it. I broke a camera, couldn't do math.
So then how do you, okay, so there's 10 years and I don't necessarily, we don't have to go through all of this, but then how do you end up getting connected to Jessica? Did you reach out to her? Did she seek you out? Did she say, hey, I want someone who's really clumsy to do some photography for me and try not to break the camera?
Yeah, I mean, she heard I was clumsy and no. So what happened was, this is another really cool story. Mrs. Green's World was a podcast.
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Okay, you remember? No one knows about me. Okay, so Mrs. Green's World was a podcast that I listened to when I was writing my articles.
Oh my gosh, what is her name? I'm drawing.
Gina Murphy Darling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Gina Murphy Darling.
I know her very well. I just forgot her name.
She's one of my heroes.
Yeah.
I listened to her podcast when I was writing all my articles. The articles I wrote were like about hiking and biking and getting outside and getting connected to nature. And so naturally I gravitated towards Mrs. Green's World because she talked about all things environment. Bonnie Gonzalez is Jessica's mother, and Bonnie worked for Mrs. Green.
Oh, wow.
So I got to meet Bonnie before I ever got to meet Jessica. And when Jessica was looking for a photographer, I'm pretty sure Bonnie told her to hire me.
Okay. Yeah, we do what moms say, so yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure. But I also, I've done a lot of work with Joe Pajak. In fact, he helped me with my first music video. He actually helped me film it. And then later on, early this year, I'm going to have a shoot with Ignacio Garcia, who's...
Okay, so you're just hitting a few of the big names here. Okay, so now music video, this is... Are you a musician or were you doing, what's this?
So I am a videographer, and I started doing video about 5 years ago. Actually, yeah, it was 2019, so it was about 5 years ago. And I just wanted to make music videos. So I started making music videos, and now I do conceptual and live music videos, and I do videos of other kinds too. But I'm still very new to videography. So I work with a lot of partners, and usually we collaborate just to make sure we have all our bases covered. But
sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I produced about 20, 25 music videos.
Okay, local artists or how do...
All local artists, yeah. Actually. And I got to meet Billy Gibbons a couple months ago at KXCI, and I got to photograph him. I didn't get to make a music video, but... I love working with local music. So I started volunteering for KXCI 10 years ago when I picked up my camera.
The other nonprofit radio station here in Tucson, as we like to say on downtown radio.
Yeah. So I started volunteering for KXCI, and I have been volunteering for them for 10 years. I shoot the Locals Only show almost every Monday night. I go in, I meet a new local band, and I give them images for their podcast that they put on the web, their archive. So every Monday you can hear a live local band, and then you can go on later on and check it out if you missed it.
Interesting. So then, can you briefly tell me about this collaboration with Joe Pajak in the music videos?
Oh, so my friend Lee Lesho, she has a band, and we made our first music video was called Fire, and it was for her song Fire, and we filmed at Linda Ronstadt's old house. Okay. And we filmed at this really beautiful permaculture ranch that my friend runs, and we made a music video it's a flamenco infused music video. Okay.
And what was Joe's artwork involved with that, or
Joe shot a lot of the video?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he was on the other side of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just trying to all these creatives, just trying to figure out, they have all these different outlets. I just found out I was interviewing Ignacio's son, who is an artist, and just found out that Ignacio has a background as a DJ in LA.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so it's like all of these creatives, I got one skill, I can talk, and that's it. I got nothing else. So I'm always impressed by those of you that can do these multifaceted things. From a photographer standpoint, is there something different about a mural than maybe a landscape shot, or your pictures of hiking in the desert. What, like, how does that go into your thought process differently? Do you set up differently? Do you have a different vision for that?
Yeah, so I'm always afraid to photograph other people's artwork. It actually I'm a little afraid of it because I want to represent it the way the artist wanted it. So I want the colors to be perfect. I don't want it to be too warm or too cool. I want it to look as big as it is. I don't want to minimize it in any way. And different lenses have different distortions, and I think about that kind of stuff. So when Jessica hired me to photograph her murals, I probably took 400 photos of the same mural and then went through meticulously and picked the best, sharpest, cleanest image I could just to make sure I represented it the way she wanted it.
Okay.
But I think with murals, what you want to do is make them just what they are. They're larger than life, and they're really, I think murals and artwork is really important to a city. I travel a lot, and you can tell where there's a lot of culture and money for culture and money for art, and where there's not, because where there's not, there will be no art. Mm-hmm. You see it a lot, not just you see it in other countries. I see it in other countries a lot, but even in the US, you can tell which areas are which areas drive the culture of art and help influence the culture of art. And I think Tucson is really special in that way.
Yeah, I had a chance to interview with Joe for the Tucson Galleries podcast called Meet the Artist. And I had asked him, I said, Tucson seems to have, for the number of people that live here, we seem to have an extraordinarily large amount of beautiful murals. And his response was that there's three things that sort of play into it. One is there is money. The community wants the murals. So there's the Arts Foundation, there's private money. Businesses recognize the value of it, so they can pay to have those. Two is that there's respect. You don't see a lot of tagging. You don't see, once the mural is done, too much destruction. You see it here and there, but it's not on a large scale. There's a lot of respect for that. They might tag the entire building, but they'll leave the mural alone.
I've seen that.
And, so they appreciate that. And three is just simply the weather. It's we can paint almost every day of the year here.
Yeah. And the murals last longer a lot of times.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't think, but yeah, I guess they would. If now with some of the new paint that is more UV resistant, I think it definitely could be out there. But I think that gives Tucson a leg up over a lot of other cities when you put those three things together. And the first one he mentioned, and I think what you said, it's the money. There's got to be a way to get these out there, because these artists don't. They spend so much time. I don't think people realize how much time they spend before even a drop of paint hits that wall.
Yeah, and it's the same with so many arts that people don't realize how much time goes into it before you even see that person's face.
Well, and what you just said, 400 photographs that you have to dig through to get the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting. So I guess that's a big difference to me, is when you were taking photographs for the magazine of hiking and trails, you were capturing the shot you wanted.
Yeah.
But now you're trying to capture the shot Jessica wants, and you have to get into her mind, because she doesn't quite know how to articulate that. So she tells you, and then you have to figure out how to bring that out in a photograph.
Yeah, and it's hard because different people have different things they like and don't like. So what I do when I do any shoot is I try to do the biggest variety of images or videos that I can get. That way I get a sense of what the other artist wants. Okay.
Yeah, I just there's a certain level of preference that seems like it could be, I don't want to say frustrating, but it certainly could create some challenges in your work, that you have something that's absolutely perfect, and someone looks at it and says, oh, no. And you're like, no, this is perfect. I'm like, no, but this one is perfect. No, it's not.
It happens a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It happens a lot. And what I do is I always send my clients, I always send them a folder of my favorites, and 90% of the time their favorite is something in the other folder that I didn't even notice.
Okay.
And they don't really like my favorites.
Interesting.
Yeah.
90% of the time?
I swear. It's way more often than not.
So they have access to all of it, and you send them okay, these are all good. Because I'd be like, okay, I'm just going to narrow my search down to whatever the professional thinks is great. But they're like, let's just see what's in this other folder. And they're like, oh, I really like this one.
Yeah. And I get a lot of flack from other photographers, because what they do is they'll shoot, and take 1,000 images, and then they'll send the client 30. I don't do that. I'll send the client 300 and let them choose. Oh, wow. That's from 1,000 though, so I've really cooled it down. But that's something that I do differently that some people really don't like and some people really do like. The clients usually like it. Sometimes they're like, this is too many, narrow it down.
Well, that's the 10% then. Those are my favorites, right? Yep. That's the narrow.
Yep. So I have one client that says, do not send me more than 100 photos. I don't care if we took 3,000. And I have one client that says, do not exclude a single photo. I want to see everything we touched. Yeah. So the more I work with clients, and I think as a no matter what profession or artistic expression you're in, I think it's important to work with a lot of photographers. I don't think you should get one photographer and just stick with them. But when you find a photographer you really like, it's important to keep working with them because they're going to get better for you. Yeah. They're going to produce something better for you because they find out what you like, they find out what you don't like.
Well, I can 100% agree with that. Once they start to understand your perspective and your color balance and the types of things that you want to highlight, that's the starting point for the next shoot, right? And then it just gets better from there. Yeah. That makes perfect sense to me.
So I think it is worth it to stick with a photographer you really love, but I also think it's worth it to try out a lot of different styles and a lot of different perspectives from photographers.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody might have the utmost respect for you, but they want a celestial picture, and apparently you're not going to get that from you right now.
You're not going to get that from me right now.
Well, we'll see what happens with the new telescope. Are you able to share any of the details of what you're going to be working with Ignacio, or is that still kind of?
It's still up in the air. We're both in a group called Creative Mornings. Oh, yeah. And you've heard of Creative Mornings?
Yeah, I've been to a few sessions. I have trouble. They're usually on Fridays, and I have trouble getting out there. But I've been to a few sessions.
Yeah, it's hard for people to get out on Fridays. Friday's one of my days off, usually in the morning. So I always sorry, I always photograph for them. And we have a meeting in 2 weeks, and so it's a lot of fun. I really like it because it's all free. Nobody pays anything to go. Nobody pays anything to put it on. Everything's donated. And that's how I've met a lot of creatives in Tucson. Mm-hmm. I've done a lot of collaborations through just that organization, from comedy to photography to videography. And it's a really cool group. But that's how I met Ignacio. And he actually won. I was giving away a photography certificate, and he won it. So now it's a thing. And we've been trying to shoot since December, but he was just working on that enormous mural.
Los Vaqueros. And if you'd like to know more about that, check out our episode 2 weeks ago with Ignacio Garcia on his brand new mural, Los Vaqueros.
Yeah, Los Vaqueros. So he's been working on that now, and then I took a vacation. So now he's done with that. I'm done with my stuff. We're going to get together and do a shoot. It's going to be a studio shoot. And then I also want to photograph him actually working in his studio, but we're going to do lights, and it's not going to be my typical, most of the time I shoot outdoors. I do use lights, but most of the time I shoot outdoors and I do like environmental portraiture. This is going to be a studio setting. Okay. Yeah.
And so how do we follow you and learn about these things when they come out? What's your handles? Are you on social media? Do you have a website?
I need a website. So I have a website. I don't know what happened. It's dead. I realized this morning that it's not live at all. I have Facebook. I have Instagram, Celestial Photography on both. I will have my website back up, and that's celestialphotography.com. Okay. That is my domain. It is not going anywhere. I have a website designer that I met through Creative Mornings, and we're working on a new website. Okay. But yeah.
Well, for now, Celestial Mornings, they can find that on Instagram, Facebook. I'm sure they can see some of your work on there, and you'll post some things about these projects as they come about.
Yeah. No, I'm really good at posting about my projects while they're happening. I'm less good about posting my final products. So that's why I want the website. I want all my final portfolio to go up there. Because while I'm doing stuff and I'm excited about it, I'm constantly posting and sharing and being like, look what, like, I can't believe my life sometimes. So yeah, that's a really good place to find me.
Well, let this be a lesson. If you're good at trigonometry, that's great. But if you're not, there is still hope. It's Nicci Radhe, Radhe. and it's NICCI, right?
Yep.
Nicci Radhe. We're appreciative for you coming and spending some time here with us today, and I look forward to seeing what you're doing here in the future.
Thank you so much for taking time to hang with me. And I love what you got here. This is really cool.